When it comes to American muscle cars, few names command the level of respect, awe, and sheer reverence as the Pontiac Trans-Am Super Duty. For enthusiasts, historians, and serious collectors alike, the 1973 Pontiac Firebird Trans-Am equipped with the legendary Super Duty 455, SD 455, engine is not just another car from the golden era of Detroit horsepower. It is a symbol, a benchmark, and, to many, the ultimate expression of Pontiac's performance engineering. The early 1970s were a turbulent period for the American automotive industry. The golden age of muscle cars, which began in the mid-1960s, was beginning to collide with government regulations, insurance crackdowns, and the looming oil crisis. By 1973, many manufacturers were pulling back, detuning engines, and quietly walking away from the horsepower wars that had defined the previous decade. Against this backdrop of decline, Pontiac dared to defy the odds. Instead of retreating, they doubled down on performance with the creation of the Super Duty Trans-Am, a car that today stands as one of the most exclusive, rare, and desirable muscle cars ever produced. Only 252 examples of the 1973 Trans-Am Super Duty were ever built, and of those, only a fraction remain today in their original condition. Experts estimate fewer than 50 unrestored, numbers-matching survivors are still in existence. This makes owning one not just an indulgence in nostalgia, but a direct investment in one of the most historically important Pontiacs ever produced. The particular example presented here is a truly remarkable piece of automotive history. This all-original, numbers-matching 1973 Super Duty Trans-Am has been privately owned by a dedicated collector for the past 30 years. Unlike many survivors, this car has undergone a careful, respectful restoration using all OEM parts, an approach that preserves both its authenticity and its value. Everything from the engine to the transmission to the vehicle identification number is factory correct and perfectly aligned with Pontiac's original build records. Among the highlights of this restoration are the original 800 CFM Rochester quadrajet carburetor, the correct intake manifold, the factory distributor, and the untouched differential. Every critical component is present, accounted for, and fully documented. This is not a car that has been modified, chopped up, or reimagined to fit someone's modern interpretation of performance. Instead, it stands proudly as Pontiac intended, a true factory-built, showroom-accurate Super Duty Trans-Am. Supporting its pedigree are Pontiac Historical Services, PHS, documentation, and the original window sticker, providing undeniable proof of its authenticity, factory options, and comfort in a muscle car package. The 1973 Super Duty Trans-Am was not just about brute force. It was also a surprisingly well-equipped and comfortable car for its time. This particular model left the factory with some of the most desirable options available in 1973. It features the automatic transmission, perfectly matched to the torque-rich nature of the SD 455 power plant, making it both a powerhouse on the open road and a comfortable cruiser in everyday situations. The car is also equipped with air conditioning, a rare and highly valued option for muscle cars of this era. Power steering and power brakes were also included, giving the driver the ability to harness the car's immense strength without sacrificing control. The interior boasts the sought-after Air Cushion Deluxe seating package, a factory console option, and an AM/FM Delco radio. In a tasteful modern update, the internals of the radio have been discreetly upgraded with Pioneer components, giving it the ability to deliver quality modern sound while retaining the authentic look of the period-correct dash. Visually, the car is instantly recognizable by its massive Screaming Eagle hood decal, a symbol of Pontiac's flair and identity during the muscle car era. Inside, enthusiasts will notice the restored original fat 1973 steering wheel, which adds to the authentic driving feel of the car. The finishing touch comes in the form of the factory-correct honeycomb wheels, a design element unique to Pontiac that remains one of the most iconic styling cues of the Trans-Am. What makes the Super Duty 455 so special? To understand the significance of the 1973 Trans-Am Super Duty, one must first understand what makes the SD 455 engine such a revolutionary piece of engineering. While most American automakers were beginning to detune their engines in the early 1970s, Pontiac engineers secretly developed what would become one of the most overbuilt, race-ready, and powerful V8 engines ever offered in a production car. Unlike the standard Pontiac 455, the Super Duty 455 was built to withstand the rigors of racing. Each engine was hand-assembled and given special internal components that went far beyond the requirements of a typical street engine. It featured a 4-bolt main block, forged aluminum pistons manufactured by TRW, and forged connecting rods, an arrangement far more common in professional racing than in production muscle cars. Pontiac also included provisions for a dry sump oiling system, something virtually unheard of in factory muscle cars. Though most customer cars were delivered with a traditional wet sump system, the fact that the block was designed with dry sump capability speaks volumes about the intent behind this engine. The oil pan was baffled to prevent starvation under high-G cornering and racing conditions, further underlining the car's motorsport pedigree. The cylinder heads were a direct evolution of the famous Ram Air 4 round port design, but with additional refinements unique to the Super Duty. Special round port exhaust manifolds and a unique intake manifold were also included, making the SD455 one of the most breathing-efficient engines of its era. Rated at 310 horsepower and 390 lb-ft of torque in 1973, most experts agree that the actual output was considerably higher, with some dyno results suggesting figures in excess of 370 to 400 horsepower in stock trim. Historical context: a muscle car against the odds. The release of the 1973 Super Duty Trans-Am was an act of defiance by Pontiac. The muscle car era, which had burned brightly for nearly a decade, was on the verge of collapse. Insurance companies were penalizing high-horsepower cars, emissions regulations were tightening, and the first rumblings of the oil crisis were already being felt. Many manufacturers quietly ended their performance programs or began producing sticker cars, vehicles that looked the part but lacked true muscle under the hood. Pontiac refused to follow this trend. With the Super Duty program, they reminded the world that American engineering still had the ability to shock, impress, and deliver genuine performance. While other companies were dialing horsepower down, Pontiac gave enthusiasts a car that was not only powerful but also durable, overbuilt, and capable of withstanding the demands of racing. In many ways, the 1973 Super Duty Trans-Am represents the last stand of the true muscle car era. Rarity and collectability. With only 252 examples produced, the 1973 Trans-Am Super Duty is among the rarest Pontiacs ever built. Each one that survives today carries not just value, but a piece of automotive history. Collectors have long recognized the SD455 cars as blue-chip investments, with values continuing to climb as the years go by. The combination of rarity, performance, and historical significance ensures that these cars will always be in demand. This particular example, with its all-original, numbers-matching drivetrain, documented history, and OEM-correct restoration, sits at the very top of the desirability scale. Unlike cars that have been modified, restored incorrectly, or pieced together from donor parts, this Trans-Am offers the full authenticity that serious collectors demand. It is not simply a car, it is a time capsule from an era when Pontiac still ruled the streets and racetracks of America driving experience. Owning a 1973 Super Duty Trans-Am is not just about displaying it in a climate-controlled garage. It's about experiencing a car that was engineered to deliver raw, unfiltered power. Turn the key, and the big 455 roars to life with a deep, commanding rumble that immediately sets it apart from lesser engines of its day. The torque is immense, allowing the car to leap forward with effortless authority even at low RPMs. Yet, despite its muscle, the car is surprisingly refined. The automatic transmission pairs perfectly with the torque curve of the SD455, making the car as comfortable in traffic as it is on the open highway. With power steering, power brakes, and the comfort of air conditioning, this is a muscle car that doesn't punish its driver. It rewards them. Every drive becomes a reminder of why the Trans-Am name carries such weight in automotive history. A collector's dream. For the serious collector, this 1973 Pontiac Trans-Am Super Duty represents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Cars of this caliber do not surface often, and when they do, they are quickly claimed by enthusiasts who understand their significance. With fewer than 50 original, numbers-matching cars believed to remain, each surviving example is priceless in its own right. This Trans-Am, with its documented provenance, OEM-correct restoration, and unmatched authenticity, is not just another muscle car, it is an artifact of American performance history. Whether displayed in a private collection, preserved in a museum, or enjoyed on the road as intended, it will continue to be admired, respected, and valued for generations to come. Conclusion. The 1973 Pontiac Trans-Am Super Duty is more than just a car. It is a legend, a benchmark, and a survivor of an era when muscle cars roared proudly against the tides of change. With its hand-built engine, authentic restoration, and factory documentation, this example represents the very best of what Pontiac had to offer. It is a rare chance to own not just a collector's item, but a living, breathing piece of American automotive history. Owning this Super Duty Trans-Am is not simply about possession, it's about stewardship. It's about carrying forward a legacy of engineering brilliance, racing pedigree, and unrelenting performance into the future. For the right buyer, this isn't just a purchase. It's an opportunity to join a select group of enthusiasts who understand what it means to own one of the rarest and most exclusive muscle cars ever made. Collector's Guide. Understanding the value of the 1973 Pontiac Trans-Am Super Duty market value and auction trends. Over the last 2 decades, the 1973 Pontiac Trans-Am Super Duty has consistently proven itself to be a blue-chip collectible in the muscle car world. While many cars from the same era have seen fluctuating values, the SD455 Trans-Am has followed a steady upward trajectory. This can be attributed to its extreme rarity, authentic performance heritage, and cultural significance as one of the last true muscle cars built before emissions and regulations changed the industry forever. Auction houses such as Mecum, Barrett-Jackson, and RM Sotheby's have all featured SD455 Trans-Ams in recent years, and results are telling. Well-documented, numbers-matching examples frequently achieve 6-figure prices, often in the range of $175,000 to $250,000, depending on condition, originality, and options. In rare cases, Concours-level restorations have pushed closer to $300,000, especially when accompanied by factory documentation and low production numbers. Compared to other collectible American cars, the 1973 Super Duty Trans-Am is a safe long-term investment. While cars like the 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda convertible may bring astronomical sums in the millions, they are far rarer and almost unattainable. The SD455 sits in the sweet spot of being both attainable for serious collectors and exclusive enough to remain highly valuable. Its limited production run of just 252 cars guarantees that supply will never increase, ensuring ongoing demand in the collector market. For investors in classic automobiles, the Super Duty Trans-Am represents a balanced portfolio piece. A car that is rare enough to appreciate in value, iconic enough to hold cultural weight, and still drivable and enjoyable in a way that ultra-rare exotics often are not. Comparison with other rare muscle cars. When discussing the pantheon of legendary American muscle cars, the 1973 Trans-Am Super Duty deserves to be mentioned alongside icons like the 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1, the 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda, the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona, and the 1969 Boss 429 Mustang. While each of these cars has its own unique story and appeal, the SD455 stands apart for several reasons. Against the 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda. The Hemi Cuda is perhaps the most mythical of all muscle cars, particularly in convertible form. However, the SD455 was more advanced in terms of engineering, featuring racing-oriented oiling systems and forged internals that made it more durable for competition use. Where the Hemi was about brute force, the Super Duty represented refinement and adaptability. Against the Boss 429 Mustang. The Boss 429 is celebrated for its NASCAR-derived engine and aggressive styling, but it was notoriously expensive to produce and limited in numbers. The SD455 shares this exclusivity but is generally regarded as a more reliable and versatile street machine, with a broader torque curve and superior day-to-day drivability. Against the 1969 Camaro ZL1, the ZL1 is incredibly rare and famous for its all-aluminum 427 engine. However, its production numbers were even lower than the Trans-Am Super Duty, making it nearly unattainable for most collectors. The SD455 offers a more accessible alternative without sacrificing historical significance. Against the Dodge Charger Daytona and Plymouth Superbird, these Aero Warriors were designed with NASCAR dominance in mind, and while their value has skyrocketed, they were not engineered with the same versatility as the Super Duty. The Pontiac remains a purist muscle car, street-legal, race-ready, and usable in everyday conditions. What sets the 1973 Super Duty Trans-Am apart is that it is often considered the last true high-performance muscle car of its generation. By 1974, tightening emissions regulations and fuel economy concerns had begun to water down performance across the industry. The 73 SD 455 therefore occupies a unique place as both a peak and a farewell to the golden era. Restoration and authenticity notes. For collectors considering an investment in a 1973 Super Duty Trans-Am, one of the most critical factors is authenticity. Because of the car's high value, many have been cloned, restamped, or incorrectly restored over the years. Discerning buyers should always verify the following when evaluating a potential purchase. Numbers matching, engine, transmission, and VIN stamps should all align with factory records. This car, for example, maintains full numbers matching authenticity.phs documentation. Pontiac Historical Services records are essential for proving that the car left the factory as a genuine Super Duty Trans-Am. Correct components. Original Rochester carburetor, intake manifold, distributor, exhaust manifolds, and other SD-specific parts should be intact. Many of these components are extremely rare and difficult to source today. Restoration approach. Cars restored with OEM parts are valued far more highly than those with aftermarket replacements or modifications. This example has been meticulously restored with OEM-correct parts, ensuring authenticity. Original options. Certain factory options such as a C, honeycomb wheels, and deluxe interiors can add significant value to the car. Restoring one of these cars is no small feat. OEM parts are scarce, and the SD 455 specialized components are particularly sought after. Collectors who own a numbers-matching, correctly restored example like this one are in possession of something far more than a car. They hold a rolling museum piece, a piece of American racing history that cannot be replicated. Final collector's perspective. The 1973 Pontiac Trans-Am Super Duty is not only one of the rarest muscle cars ever produced, but it is also one of the smartest investments a collector can make. With its unmatched blend of rarity, provenance, engineering brilliance, and cultural significance, it is a car that will continue to appreciate both in financial value and in historical importance. Whether compared against Mopar legends, Ford's Halo Mustangs, or Chevrolet's ultra-rare Camaros, the SD 455 holds its own as a true king of the road. For collectors who demand authenticity, performance, and exclusivity, few cars deliver the complete package as convincingly as the Super Duty Trans-Am. This particular example, with its documented history, numbers-matching drivetrain, OEM-correct restoration, and decades of private stewardship, represents the pinnacle of what a collector could hope to find. It is not simply an automobile. It is a heritage piece, a part of America's love affair with speed, engineering, and the pursuit of freedom on the open road.